بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بسيدنا ومولانا أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام، وجعلنا الله وإياكم من الطالبين بثأره بين يدي الإمام المنصور المؤيد المهدي من آل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، قال الإمام أمير المؤمنين صلوات الله وسلامه عليه: اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. In his famous khutbah, known as the khutbah of Shaqshaqiyya, beware, by Allah, the son of Abu Quhafa dressed himself with it, and he knew certainly my position in relation to the Caliphate was like the position of the axis in relation to the windmill. The flood water flows down from me, and the birds cannot fly up to me. I put a curtain against the Caliphate and kept myself detached from it. Then I began to wonder, should I assault or should I calmly endure the blinding darkness of tribulations, wherein grown men become feeble and the young become old, and the true believers are under strain until they meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I therefore found endurance was wiser. Then I adopted patience, even though there was a pricking in my eye and there was a suffocation in my heart. I then began to see patiently while my inheritance was plundered away, until the first of them went and he gave over the position to Ibn al-Khattab himself. It was strange to see that throughout his caliphate he wanted to be released from it. Then he confirmed it for the other. No doubt they shared its udders strictly amongst themselves. This one put through the caliphate through a very difficult period and a hefty enclosure where the utterance became haughty and the touch became rough. Mistakes were aplenty and excuses therefore. If you came in contact with it, it was like coming in contact with an unruly camel. If you pull its reins, the nostrils are slit, and if you let it go, then it will leave you. By Allah, mistakes were aplenty, and people fell into deviation and misguidance and wickedness. But I remained patient despite the long period and despite the stiffness of the trial, until the second one went and he put the caliphate into a group and made me one of the group. Good heavens, since when did I have anything to do with consultation? Was there a doubt about me being number one? Now they put me akin to all of these. But when they went low, I went low, and when they went high, I went high. One of them turned against me because he hated me, and the other one because of his in-laws, and this and that, until the third of them stood up with his heaving breast between his dung and his fodder. He then let the children of his grandfather Umayyah come and plunder the wealth of the religion, and devour the religion like the camel devours the frolage of its spoil, until eventually the rope was withdrawn. The actions came back against him, and his gluttony forced him into prostration. Then I was surprised at the way the people rushed towards me. They came from every angle and every direction like the mane of a hyena, and crushed me and Hassan and Hussein. My garments were ripped off my shoulders. They came like herds of sheep and goats vote wanting me to take over the reins. Then all of them, one of them became a group that broke away, and another of them was a group that was disobedient, and a third of them was a group who had not read the verse in the Quran which said about the mischief makers in the earth. The first of our salawat in honor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The second in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. The third with your loudest voices in honor of the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. The Holy Prophet and Fatima al-Zahra, salawatullah wa salamu alayhima, died on the 11th year after Hijrah. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib became the 4th Caliph in the 36th year after Hijrah. In those 25 years between the death of the Prophet and the Caliphate of Imam Ali, Abu Bakr, Umar and Uthman assumed the leadership of the Islamic Empire. Abu Bakr led the Islamic Empire for 2.5 years. Umar ibn al-Khattab led the Islamic Empire for 10 years. Uthman bin Affan led the Islamic Empire for 12.5 years. Between 11 AH and 36 AH, many people ask the question, whatever happened to Ali ibn Abi Talib? It seems for 25 years, many people began to wonder, where did the son of Abu Talib go? His leadership on the day of Ghadir clearly was usurped from him. But people had a right to ask the question, why did not Ali ibn Abi Talib fight for his leadership? Throughout our youth, we were taught Ali ibn Abi Talib was the bravest man in the history of the religion of Islam. Many times we've heard his exploits in war. In every lecture of mine in this series, up until the night 24, we will always look at the bravery of Ali. Yet many people ask, from the time Fatima al-Zahra died in 11 AH until he became the 4th Caliph, 36 AH, why in that 25-year period did Ali not pick up his sword and fight for his rights? If Ali ibn Abi Talib is as brave as everyone makes him out to be, if Ali ibn Abi Talib is the man who was the victor at Khaybar, if Ali ibn Abi Talib was alone at Hunayn and still brought victory to Islam, then why in that 25-year period does Ali ibn Abi Talib not pick up his sword and fight those who were in leadership at the time? Even in my own youth, I used to always wonder about this question. That why is it that when you've lost your leadership at Saqifa, why don't you do what the son of Abu Talib was known for? Why don't you pick up your sword, go out? None of them can fight you. Some of them have never killed anyone in war. Some of them may have been brave, but surely not as brave as you. You are the lion of God. Surely you would be able to rise. Okay, if you couldn't rise at the beginning, why for 25 years do you assume silence? Why for 25 years do you put a curtain against the caliphate? Why for 25 years do you detach yourself? Surely a Muslim is someone who should take part in all the affairs of the Muslims, and not someone who should detach themselves. Today, if someone in the Muslim community detaches themselves, we say to them, why haven't you come to the mosque all this time? Why haven't we seen you in majalis? Why haven't we seen you in wiladats or shahadats? Why don't we see you accepting Muharram or accepting Shahr Ramadan? Why are you away the whole year? Yet when it comes to Ali ibn Abi Talib, 25 years, Ali ibn Abi Talib is nowhere to be seen. At the age of 33 till the age of 58, there is no mention of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Where was he all this time? What had happened to him? Why did he decide to put a curtain on the caliphate? Many times our brothers in other schools in Islam also say to us, Ali ibn Abi Talib had no problem with the first 3 leaders. If Ali ibn Abi Talib had a problem, then he would have picked up his sword and fought. But Ali ibn Abi Talib, they say, had no problem. Ali ibn Abi Talib, they say, pledged allegiance to all of them. He never spoke out against any of them. And this is a myth which you Shia created. You Shia said that Ali ibn Abi Talib had a problem in that period. If he had a problem and he's as brave as he claims he is, then he could have come out and fought. And sometimes when they ask us this, we don't know where to refer to. Because many of us turn around and wonder, that is true. If Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib had a problem, where do I look for in Islamic literature where he mentions how he felt in these 25 years? Because these 25 years are a major gap, aren't they? All of us know about Ali with Rasulullah. The next time we hear about Ali is Jamal, Siffin, Nahrawan, correct? Versus Aisha versus Muawiyah. But the son of Abu Talib in his 30s, where was he? Where was he in his 40s? Where was he in his 50s? What happened to Ali ibn Abi Talib in those years? Surely Ali ibn Abi Talib must have said something about that period. And that's why, for every single one of us here, there's one sermon which is above all sermons. In Nahj al-Balagha, there is a sermon where Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib explains his 25 years when he was not Khalifa. It is one of the most powerful sermons delivered in Islamic history. Nahj al-Balagha, as we know, is not Imam Ali's book. It's Sharif al-Radi who compiled Imam Ali's greatest sermons. Sharif al-Radi and his brother Sharif al-Murtada were amongst the greatest scholars in the history of this religion. They were specialists in theology, specialists in law, but above all else, Sharif al-Radi was a specialist in Arabic grammar. He loved Ali ibn Abi Talib's Arabic, because Ali ibn Abi Talib, in terms of his Arabic, is the man who originated Arabic grammar. You know the laws of Arabic grammar that you have in the world today. If you go to Saudi Arabia, you go to Bahrain, you go to Egypt, you go anywhere in the Middle East or indeed in North Africa, the laws of Arabic grammar were originated by Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. He taught a man by the name of Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali. Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali was taught by Ali ibn Abi Talib the laws of Arabic grammar. Those of you who study basic Arabic grammar, when you come towards understanding the verb and the past tense and the future tense and so on, always you ask, who constructed the grammar of Arabic? Ali ibn Abi Talib. Sharif al-Radi compiled the best of Ali ibn Abi Talib's sermons because of their Arabic eloquence. Hence the book is called Nahj al-Balagha. Balagha means eloquence. Nahj means the peak of eloquence. Therefore, when he compiled it, sermon number 3 is still the most controversial sermon in the whole of Nahj al-Balagha. Our brothers in other schools in Islam love Nahj al-Balagha. They can't stand sermon number 3. Because in sermon number 3, Imam Ali opens up about why he distanced himself from what had happened. He opens up in the most vicious way, where he makes it clear that if you people are uncertain about what these 3 done to the religion of Islam, I will explain it to you like no one else has ever explained it to you. If you're uncertain, because we have some people in our communities today, when I travel around the world, they come and say, we shouldn't talk about these things. Because these 3 at the end of the day were Sahaba. Habibi, leave the talking to the historians. You stick to your job, I'll stick to mine, correct or no? You find that many people now are coming to give why we should and why we shouldn't talk. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib's sermon 3 of Nahj al-Balagha. Do you know what the sermon is called? I want you to all read the sermon tonight. It is vicious. It's Ali ibn Abi Talib in a different league. In this sermon, which I quoted at the beginning of my lecture, the sermon is called Shaqshaqiyya. Do you know what Shaqshaqiyya means? The roar of the camel. Yes? Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib plays on the camel pun throughout the whole of the sermon. And the sermon, when he gives it, he's suddenly interrupted by a man from Iraq who gives him a letter. When the man interrupts him in the sermon, Imam reads the letter. Ibn Abbas tells him, I beg you continue with the sermon. I want to hear the rest of what you have to say. And he turns around and he says, Ibn Abbas, that was not something I had prepared. That came naturally. Extempore, yes? It came out naturally. But now it was like the shaqshaqiyya, the roar of the camel. And now it stops. Ali ibn Abi Talib in that sermon said that my sermon is like the roar of a camel. What I just said now I let out. Years of frustration, years of anger, years of people saying to me, where were you? You're the bravest of the brave. And when you look at this sermon, the words he uses highlights exactly how he saw what they did. Because sometimes we're not sure. How are we meant to view number 1, number 2, number 3? Let me make something very clear for all of you. When I discuss such an issue, I'm not discussing it because I want to offend any other school in Islam. Nahj al-Balagha is available online, and I'm a follower of Ahl al-Bayt. I'm going to look at my literature. Yes, someone may argue there's a bias when you look at it. At the end of the day, I'm looking for haqq, not the biases. If you want to believe, you can believe. And if you don't want to believe, then Imam al-Hussein only managed to make 72, join him. If I get 71, I've done all right in life. Therefore, when you look at it, you find that this sermon is a phenomenal sermon. And in it, he describes his feelings. And I tell you, I've never seen Ali ibn Abi Talib come out in this way. Because those of you who, when your sons and daughters ask you, where was Ali for 25 years? Listen to what he has to say in the sermon where he roars. He begins the sermon by saying what? He begins the sermon by saying, by Allah, yes, beware, by Allah, the son of Abu Quhafa. Abu Bakr is the son of Abu Quhafa, yes? He doesn't call him by his name. He says, beware, by Allah, the son of Abu Quhafa dressed himself with it. Even though he knew, certainly knew, my position in relation to it was like the position of the axis in relation to the windmill. Yes? The flood water flows down from me and the birds cannot fly up to me. Yes? He's saying that Abu Bakr knew very well that I was the Imam chosen on the day of Ghadir. I was the axis to the windmill of the religion of Islam. Yes? That windmill cannot operate, the water cannot flow, and the birds do not fly unless that windmill's axis is there. He knew very well my position. My position in relation to it was what? My position in relation to it was the position of the axis to the windmill. The flood water flows down from me, and the birds cannot fly up to me. Then he says what? But I decided to put a curtain against the caliphate. Yes? I decided to put a curtain against the caliphate and kept myself detached from it. At the beginning, when Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib saw Rasulullah and Fatima Zahra died, at the beginning, he kept himself detached from the affairs. He decided to compile the Quran with the tafsir of the Quran next to the Quran. As you know, Ali ibn Abi Talib is the man who compiled the Holy Quran. He compiled it in the life of Rasulullah, under the supervision of Rasulullah. Ali ibn Abi Talib and not anyone else. Some of our brothers say Uthman compiled the Quran. Uthman didn't compile. Uthman standardized the codex of the Quran. There were many codexes of the Quran. Uthman standardized one. You had a Kufan codex, Basra, Egypt, everyone wrote in different ways. Uthman standardized. Whereas Ali ibn Abi Talib had compiled the Quran, not just compiled. Ali ibn Abi Talib would withdraw himself at the beginning. At the beginning of Abu Bakr's Khilafah, he withdrew himself. Some people say, why didn't he fight there and then? He himself says, I would have fought if I had 40 with me. But those 40 didn't turn up, yes? Abu Sufyan offered me to fight against Abu Bakr. But I know Abu Sufyan wants to divide and conquer, correct? Abu Sufyan wants us to fight so that the religion of Islam is destroyed. And I don't want to see nothing but the unity of the religion. At the beginning, Imam says what? I kept a curtain from the caliphate. And I decided to detach myself from it. He sat at home. He would write the Quran, compile it. Next to the ayats of the Quran, he would write the tafsir of each ayah. Was this Quran accepted by the Muslims? No, they rejected it. Why? Because there are certain people's fathers who are in trouble with the tafsir of the ayahs, yes? There are certain people whose fathers are in big trouble when Ali writes that tafsir. So that Quran, Imam put it aside. But did the Imam ever stop thinking of fighting for his rights? No, he continues. What does he say? I began to wonder, should I assault? Or should I calmly endure the blinding darkness of tribulation, where the grown become feeble, the young become old, and the true believer acts under strain until he meets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at Ali, look what's going through Ali. These words are from the heart. I began to wonder, should I assault? Should I go out and fight? I'm the son of Abu Talib. I cannot rest watching Fatima al-Zahra killed. I cannot rest watching people take the rights of Islam away. Watching people change the religion of Islam. I began to wonder, should I assault or should I calmly endure the what? The darkness, yes? The darkness of tribulation. The blind darkness of tribulation. Where the grown become feeble. The young become old. And the men who are believers act under strain. You know what he meant by that? He meant those of us who were old, who remained loyal to me, they became feeble when they saw what happened at Saqifa, yes? And the young suddenly grew old when they saw Fatima killed in front of them. When they saw my rights taken. And the men who were believers were under strain. You know what happened? All those who remained Shia of Ali were now under oppression. They had to live in secrecy. Some of them were beheaded after Saqifa took place. Some of Ali ibn Abi Talib's closest, who gave bay'ah to him in Ghadir, were beheaded. Malik bin Nuwayra used to collect taxes for Rasulullah. When Abu Bakr became Khalifa, he sent Khalid bin Walid to the tribe of Malik. He ordered Malik to give taxes to the state. Malik turned around. He said, I will not give taxes except to the man chosen on the day of Ghadir. You will not get any taxes from me. You people of you serve the rights. You know what Khalid bin Walid done to him? He beheaded him and slept with his wife the same night. Yes? They beheaded Malik bin Nuwayra. They made Bilal go into exile. Bilal, the companion of Rasulullah. Bilal, the mu'addin of Rasulullah. Never read adhan again after Rasulullah died. Bilal stopped reciting adhan. Go to anyone in the Muslim world today. Say to them, where's Bilal? Why did he stop reciting adhan? What happened? Bilal said, I will not recite adhan for those who have usurped their rights. They exiled him to Syria. Those of you who have been ziyarat to Sham. Do you remember going to Bab al-Saghir, Bibi Fadda and Bilal? Both of them are buried where? They're buried in Sham, in Syria. He was exiled to be made to die alone. Other companions, Salman, Abu Dhar, Miqdad, Jabir, Ammar bin Yasir, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, the likes of Hudayf al-Yaman, Abdullah bin Mas'ud, all of them were silenced by this time. Imam says, I wondered to myself, should I assault or should I calmly endure the blind darkness of tribulation, where the grown become feeble, the young grow old, the men of belief are under strain? Then he says, I found endurance was wiser, yes? Let me endure this. And I remain patient. I remain patient even though, this is one of the saddest lines I've ever read in Ali ibn Abi Talib's life. I remain patient even though there was a prickling in my eye and a suffocation in my heart and throat, yes? You know how hard it was for Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, yes? How hard it was for him. He says, I felt, you know, sometimes when you are in your day-to-day activities, something gets stuck in your eye. How much of a headache does it become to remove that thing from your eye? How much of a headache? If one thing gets stuck in my eye, or one hair gets stuck in my eye, I go and I wash it, and I get the water, and then the eye becomes red. Or something gets stuck and doesn't move for a while, and you begin to wonder what's happening. Imam says, you know how I felt? I was patient while I felt a prickling in my eye. And I felt a suffocation in my heart, yes? When I was watching what was happening. I saw my inheritance plundered. What was mine on the day of Ghadir, I saw it plundered in front of me, yes? I saw it all gone. Then I see when the first one went away, he gave it to Ibn al-Khattab himself. Question. In Islam, according to my brothers in Ahl Sunnah, if you ask them, how is a Khalifa chosen? They say in an election, correct? How comes Abu Bakr can choose Umar with no election? Yes? You see, if you're telling me there has to be an election, where's the electorate when Umar becomes Khalifa? Imam says what? Imam continues to say, it is strange, during his caliphate, he wanted to be released from Khalifa. Then he confirms it for the other one. The next line is so damning. No doubt they shared its udders amongst themselves. They milked it. They knew, you know what, now that it's in our hands, we're going to milk it. And Nahj al-Balagha, Imam says, they shared the udders, yes? They shared its udders amongst themselves. They began to milk it. They had hijacked, the biggest hijack at Saqifa. Ghadir was all over. Imam says, firstly, he gives it to his friend, yes? Even though he says at Saqifa there should be election of the Muslims, yes? Then he decides to give it to whom? He decides to give it to his friend. He gives it to his friend. Imam says, no doubt they shared its udders. You know when you milk something, when you milk a business, when you milk a partner, when you milk a project, you milk them. You take everything from them. You make sure nothing's left. No one can get in. Where's Talha? Get him out. Where's Zubair? Get him out. Where's Abdurrahman bin Auf? Get them out. Get everyone who was close to Rasulullah out. We'll milk it. Abu Bakr hands it to Umar. The biggest thing in Islamic history is I thought Rasulullah can't choose a leader after him. He left it for the Muslims. So you can choose your successor, but Rasulullah can't choose his successor. He says they shared it amongst themselves. Then you know what he says? The Caliphate went through a difficult enclosure. The touch became rough, yes? And the utterance became haughty. Mistakes were plenty and excuses were many. And the people fell into deviation. Why? When Umar ibn al-Khattab came in, every bid'ah, any innovation started coming one after the other, correct? Recently we had gone to Jannat al-Baqi', we had gone to Umrah. When I was in Umrah, you've seen these guys who stand by the grave of the Imams in Jannat al-Baqi', yes? All of them to me, bid'ah, bid'ah, bid'ah. I'm like, Habibi, if you want to talk about bid'ah, why don't we say this is a good bid'ah, yes? Us coming to stand by the graves of the Imams is good bid'ah. It's a good innovation. He's like, there's no such thing as a good bid'ah. I said, you want me to draw up the list of your Khalifa and his good bid'ahs? Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib says, you know what he did? Mistakes were many. And the excuses therefore were more. Yes? And then he says it was like an unruly camel. If you pulled it, the nostril is slit. If you let it go, it will leave you. So he says that the people fell into deviation, innovation, mistakes, and unsteadiness. You know how many bid'ahs Umar brought into the religion of Islam? To the extent he reached a stage where he started saying, this is a good bid'ah. How can a bid'ah be good? Yes? As in the bid'ah itself means what? Innovation. You're doing something Rasulullah never did. What Rasulullah said halal, you make haram. What Rasulullah said haram, you make halal. Every bid'ah is a deviation. And every deviation goes to where? To the hellfire. Umar ibn al-Khattab, look at the things he changed. Imam Ali talks about them. He says the Caliphate, it became like holding an unruly camel. You pull it, the nostril slit. You let it go, it leaves you. Look at the things he changed. Mut'ah, temporary marriage. In the time of Rasulullah allowed the temporary marriage for his companions. Jabir bin Abdullah Ansari says, Ya Rasulullah, we the companions are on a long journey, away from our wives. What do we do? Do we castrate ourselves? He told the temporary marriage. Clearly, look in Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, so many hadiths about mut'ah being allowed. The man who banned mut'ah was Umar ibn al-Khattab. He said that there were two mut'ahs allowed in the time of Rasulullah, the mut'ah of Hajj and the mut'ah of the temporary marriage. I prohibit it and I'll punish anyone who seems to be doing it. Umar ibn al-Khattab is the one who banned the temporary marriage, yes? Look where Imam Ali says the people went into deviation. The people went into mistakes. People went into wickedness. Number one, the temporary. Number two, change the adhan. How? We say, Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala al-falah. After Hayya ala al-falah, what do we say? Hayya ala khair al-amal. Our brothers, do they say Hayya ala khair al-amal? No. Hayya ala khair al-amal means what? Come to the act which brings you what? Come towards the best of acts. Correct or no? Khair al-amal. Our brothers decide to remove this. Who removes it? Umar ibn al-Khattab. He says, I don't want Hayya ala khair al-amal. Why? He said, I want jihad to be khair al-a'mal, not salah. Because he needed people to go for war. So salah at the time, adhan was saying, Hayya ala khair al-amal. Umar ibn al-Khattab turned around and said, no, I want this to be changed. And then eventually, what does he change it to? As-salatu khayrun minal? No, prayer is better than sleep. Someone says, well, in your adhan, you have Ashhadu anna Aliyan Waliullah. We reply, Ashhadu anna Ali Waliullah is not part of the adhan. Ashhadu anna Ali Waliullah is something recommended for you to send your blessings on Imam Ali after you send your blessings on Rasulullah. Otherwise, not part of the adhan. For you to say Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, you have to. So you found, therefore, that was another innovation. Taraweeh today in Shahr Ramadan, tonight. So many go to the mosque. Taraweeh, they stand 2-3 hours in namaz. And you have some of our people saying, you know what, we want to go because it's so beautiful to listen to the Quran and to stand there for 3 hours hearing a juz of the Quran. It's not for you to come and make up what's beautiful and what's not, correct or no? Allah does not burden a soul with that which they cannot handle. Imam al-Baqir says it is haram to pray Taraweeh. Subhanallah. Why? Because in the time of Rasulullah, as we know, there's a general principle. A salah, which is wajib, can be prayed in jama'ah, correct or no? A salah, which is not wajib, cannot be prayed in jama'ah. The only salah which is not wajib, which can be prayed in jama'ah, is salat al-istisqa, the prayer for rain. Yes? If there is a drought in a community, there's no rain whatsoever, it's the only salah which is not wajib, which you can pray in jama'ah. Otherwise, why? Because the whole community has to come out, otherwise this whole community is going to pass away, yes? Otherwise, you cannot pray a mustahab. In Shahr Ramadan, we're told, pray sunnah prayers in the mosque, correct or no? You pray 2 nawafil in the mosque, no problem. 2 ruk'ah. Umar ibn al-Khattab one day was sitting after Rasulullah died. He said, why is everyone praying individually? 2 ruk'ah here, 2 ruk'ah here. Why is everyone praying individually? I don't like this. I want everyone to pray together. Yes, but Umar, Rasulullah never said you could do wajib sunnah prayers in jama'ah. Yes? You can't make the sunnah prayers come in jama'ah. He said this is a good bid'ah. Yes? A good innovation. Imam Ali therefore in that khutbah, what does he say? He said, I found it strange that he wanted to release himself from the caliphate. Now he confirms it for the other. Then he says after that they uddered, yes? They milked the others amongst themselves. And then he says that caliph who came in gave it a very difficult enclosure. The utterance became tough, yes? The touch became haughty. He says mistakes were so many. And excuses were even more. Mistake on mistake. But you know the greatness of Ali ibn Abi Talib, what it is? Even when Umar was Khalifa, Umar still admits, if it wasn't for Ali, I would be perished. Correct or no? You know what the magnanimity of Ali ibn Abi Talib in those years was? You've killed my wife. I don't still mind advising you if it's for the sake of Islam. Take this in our communities today, my dear brothers and sisters. How many of us, when our ego is hurt, the whole community should be hurt? How many of us, when our ego is hurt by one mosque, we take it out on the whole community? When someone doesn't do things our way, we take it out. When we don't like a Maulana, we take it out. Look at Ali ibn Abi Talib, the man who killed his wife. He was still willing to advise him for the sake of Islam. How many of you would do that? Some of us today, one mosque doesn't visit the other. One Maulana doesn't like the other. One mosque doesn't stand the other. Community members don't like each other. Wallah, take a leaf out of the book of Ali ibn Abi Talib. For the sake of the religion of Islam, he put everything down. Umar would come to him. He'd say to him, we have an army going to Rome. Should I go? He said to him, no. He said, why? He said, because if the capital of the Islamic State does not have its leader, and the leader dies in the battlefield, then there's going to be chaos back in the capital. Stay. When he wanted to go to Rome, to Persia, he said to Ali, shall I go? Imam Ali said, no, stay behind. He said to him, why? He said, because if the capital doesn't have the Khalifa, there's going to be chaos. On another occasion, Umar came, he said, we have a problem. He said, what is it? He said, we don't know how to mark the calendar. He said, what do you mean? Up until that point, the Arabs, you know what they used to do with their calendars? They name the year according to the event. So if the event of the people of Elephant, they call it Amil Fil. If it's the event of the year of delegations, they call it Amil Wufud. When they came to Umar, they said, Umar, you are the Khalifa of Rasulullah. He said, yes. They said, how do we do our calendars? We're confused. We have all of these events, but we don't know how to do the Islamic calendar. He went to Imam Ali and said, oh Amir, oh Ali, what do I do? He said, you know what you do? Begin the Islamic calendar from when Hijrah happened. When the Hijrah of Rasulullah happened, that's where you begin. In the 17th year after Hijrah was when Ali ibn Abi Talib made every Islamic calendar begin from Hijrah. Umar turned around and said, if it wasn't for Ali, I would be perished. All these questions come to me. Another one came to him. They had jewelry outside the Kaaba. The army needed lots of money. They came to him. They said, Umar, we want to sell the jewelry in the Kaaba so we can give weapons to our army. He came to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. He said, Imam, what shall I do? He said, Ali, what shall I do? Ali said to him, oh Umar, we are poorer than in the time of Rasulullah. Yes, you are right, Umar. But I'll tell you something, and I know you want the army to go ahead, but let me make something clear to you. Rasulullah never allowed that jewelry to be sold, therefore you cannot sell that jewelry as well. On another occasion, when they conquered Egypt, they came to Imam Ali. They said there's a library of non-Muslims in Alexandria, yes? The famous library of Alexandria. 5,000 to 7,000 books. They said to him, Ali, they said to Umar, what shall we do? Umar turned around, he asked Imam Ali said, what's the problem? He said, these books are not written by Muslims. And some of their opinions may contradict Islam. Imam Ali said, no, don't burn knowledge, for knowledge is useful to everyone, yes? Ali ibn Abi Talib, different level. Knowledge is useful. Astronomy, philosophy, science, physics, biology, all of it is useful. So what if a non-Muslim teaches me? If I can gain wisdom from a non-Muslim, what's wrong? Yes? There are some sayings of non-Muslims, they make more sense than the whole of the Shia world put together, I guarantee you, yes? There are some sayings of non-Muslims we can learn so much from. Eventually what they do, they went and they decided to burn the books instead of listening to Ali ibn Abi Talib. 5,000 books they decided to burn on that occasion. Therefore Imam Ali continues in that sermon. He says then after what? But I remain patient. Now look again, he said patience how many times? I remain patient with Abu Bakr, even though there was a prickling in my eye, a suffocation in my heart. Then now when Umar dies, he says, and then I remain patient, despite the length of the period. Umar ibn Khattab was Khalifa for 10 years, yes? Despite the length of the period, I remain patient. And then he continues to say what? I remain patient despite the stiffness of the trial. And then when the second Khalifa went his way, he decided to put the Caliphate into a group. And he made me one of the group. Good heavens, since when had I had anything to do with consultation? Was there a doubt about me being number one now that they make me akin to these? Yes? Was there a doubt about me being number one? Because you know what Umar did? Umar, before he died, he wanted to make sure that the world knew who would succeed him. Yes? So who does he appoint as his successor after he dies? He doesn't appoint anyone. Umar doesn't appoint anyone. Ammar says we're going to have an election called a shura. We're going to get 6 people to choose who the leader is, lock them in a house, and they have to choose amongst each other. You know, if a non-Muslim heard this, he'll say, hey, wait, I'm getting a bit confused with your religion. So your first caliph is chosen in an election while your prophet hasn't been buried, and your second one's chosen by the first, and your third one's chosen by 6. Can you guys make up your mind about your election system or no? Because this is getting a bit messy now, yes? Umar ibn Khattab calls 6 companions. Imam Ali says, he puts me in a consultation. When was there a doubt about me being number one now that I'm in a consultation with the rest of these? You know who we get? Imam Ali, Uthman, Talha, Zubair, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, Abd al-Rahman bin Auf. 6. He puts them all in a house, under house arrest. Under house arrest. And he says, you 6 choose a leader between you. If 5 of you agree on one leader and one of you disagrees, we kill the one that disagrees. If 4 of you agree on a leader and 2 disagree, we kill the 2 that disagree. Wait. My book is going to come out now. The 10 granted paradise, correct? Our brothers in Ahl Sunnah have a hadith about 10 granted paradise, yes? They said there are 10 companions granted paradise. Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, Talha, Zubair, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, Abd al-Rahman. Wait, hold on. So you're telling me when there was a shura for who should be the successor of Umar, there were 6 people in there. Umar goes, if 4 agree and 2 disagree, kill the 2 that disagree. Now I'm getting confused. Because of those 6, they're all going Jannah. So if 2 of them disagree, will we still all meet in Jannah? So if I beheaded you in that house, yes? Do I meet you in Jannah and say, Salaam alaikum, how are you? Do you remember how sharp was the cut when I gave it to you? Do you remember or no? I tell you, we may laugh, but the heart breaks. Wallah, wallah, the heart breaks. Imam says, they put me akin to these. And then Imam says, what's in the khutbah of Shaqshaqiyya? He says, one of them turned against me because he hated me out of those 6. And another one because of his brother-in-law. Until the 3rd one came with his heaving breasts between his dung and his fodder. Yes? You know how they decided who the Khalifa was? Umar said if 3 agree and 3 disagree, Abd al-Rahman bin Auf, brilliant person to put in the middle. Abd al-Rahman bin Auf, he's the one who chooses who should be the leader. Amongst the 6, they came to a conclusion. They said Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib should be leader after Umar. Do you know what they came and asked Imam Ali? They said to him, Ali, will you be the leader? He said, on what basis? They said, you have to follow the sunnah of the Prophet, Abu Bakr and Umar. Question, if Abu Bakr and Umar's sunnah is the same as the Prophet, why does there have to be a clause? If Abu Bakr and Umar's sunnah is the same as Rasulullah, why do they have to be a clause? Why don't you just say the sunnah of Prophet? unless there was a new sunnah after a sunnah. He said, you want me to follow the sunnah of the Shaykhain? Never! I'll follow the sunnah of Rasulullah only. They said, that's it, you're not Khalifa. Uthman, will you follow the sunnah of Abu Bakr and Umar as well as the Prophet? Said yes. He said, there you go, Khalifa. Question, where's all of these other companions? Where are all these other companions? Why aren't they in that 6? Why specifically these 6? Yes? Because you know one of them hates Ali. The other one is brother-in-laws with Uthman. Before you know it, you'll find Uthman was in. Then what does Imam say about Uthman? Until the one with the heaving breasts came between himself and the dung and fodder, he brought the children of his grandfather Umayyah in. And they began to plunder the wealth of the Muslims and devour it like a camel devours the village of its spoils. Yes? He said, what did Uthman do? You know what Uthman did? Uthman brought all the old enemies of Ali ibn Abi Talib back to Islam. In all my majalis this month, how many names have you heard me mention in battles? Yes? Staunch enemies of Ali. You know what Uthman did? Because they're all his cousins. Bring them all back to Islam. All of them now had positions and Ali had nothing. You see how the world turns? My dear brothers and sisters, if in life ever you feel the world turned upside down against you, it never turned upside down except for Ali ibn Abi Talib. In his youth, defending Islam for his life. By the time Rasulullah dies, everyone who spat at Islam was now given positions back again. He said they plundered the wealth of Muslims. You know who Uthman made treasurer of Africa? Who collects khums for Africa? Marwan ibn al-Hakam. Marwan al-Hakam, who Rasulullah gave la'na on, said leave. Don't ever come back to the state. Who in ziyarah we do la'na on. Yes? Marwan was made treasurer of khums collection and FedEx was given to him. Can you imagine how much Marwan was laughing? Fatima was given FedEx by Muhammad. Now FedEx sits on my hands. Samara bin Jundub, he bought him back. Amongst the people who he bought him back, who was the cause of the downfall, was who? Amongst the people who he bought back, who was the cause of the downfall, was Walid bin Uqba. Yes? Walid bin Uqba, the Quran in the time of Imam Ali with Rasulullah. The Quran had attacked Walid bin Uqba. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu in ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in fatabayyanu an tusibu qawman bijahalatin fatusbihu ala ma fa'altum nadimin. Oh, you who believe, when a wicked man comes to you with news, verify the news. Imam Hassan used to say, the difference between right and wrong is 4 fingers. Between the ears and the eyes. Whatever you hear in the ears, make sure you verify with the eyes. Yes? You found that the Quran said, oh, you believe, when a fasiq comes to you with news, verify the news. Walid bin Uqba was the fasiq who made rumors about Bani Mustalaq that they had become kafir. So no Muslim talks to them until Allah told Rasulullah, do not listen to him, this is a fasiq. Do not take the words of this fasiq. Uthman made him the governor of Kufa. Walid bin Uqba, Marwan ibn al-Hakam, all of Bani Umayyah slowly started coming back. Everyone who fought Ali at Badr, Uhud, Khandaq, Khaybar, all coming back slowly, yes? Imam said they began to devour religion. You know this Walid bin Uqba is the same man who led Salat al-Fajr drunk, yes? He led Salat al-Fajr drunk in the mosque of Kufa. He reached Ruk'ah number 4 of Salat al-Fajr. How many Ruk'ahs in Salat al-Fajr? How drunk must you be to get to 4, yes? He reached Ruk'ah number 4 Fajr. In Ruk'ah number 4, he turned around to his audience and behind him towards the people praying. He said, do you guys want me to continue or no? This is Islam. This is Islam. This is what happened to Ali ibn Abi Talib. This is what he had to deal with. This Walid bin Uqba, the news reached Aisha. She told Uthman, Uthman, remove him. Uthman, you're giving too much power to your cousins. This is going to be your downfall, Uthman. You long-bearded Jew, she called him, yes? Naqtar, she called him, you long-bearded Jew. Remove this person from power. He wouldn't remove him. He said, but he's my brother-in-law. How can I remove him from power? Yes? And then Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib told him, if you don't punish him, I'll be the one who goes to punish him. Yes? Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib himself, he would go out towards that person if Uthman's doing nothing. Because understand one thing, just because Abu Bakr, Umar and Uthman became khulafa does not mean Ali ibn Abi Talib lost his position. Ali ibn Abi Talib is like the Kaaba. You go to him, he doesn't come to you. Yes? Rasulullah has a hadith where he says something beautiful. He says, Ali ibn Abi Talib is like the Kaaba. You go to him, he doesn't come to you. Salman, his imam was who? Ali. Abu Dhar, his imam was who? Ali. Miqdad, his imam was who? Ali. Ammar bin Yasir, his imam was who? Ali. Bilal, his imam was who? Ali. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, who was his imam? Ali. Hudayf al-Yaman, who was his imam? Ali. Malik al-Ashtar, who was his imam? Ali. If you look at Hujr bin Adi, who was his imam? Ali. Amr bin Hamaq al-Khuza'i, who was his imam? Ali. Rushad al-Hajari, who was his imam? Ali. Kumayl bin Ziyad, who was his imam? Ali. Maytham al-Tammar, who was his imam? Ali. Khuzaymah bin Thabit, who was his imam? Ali. Ibn al-Tayyahan, who was his imam? Ali. Adi bin Hatim al-Ta'i, who was his imam? Ali. You could have as many khulafa as you want, they don't come near the dust of Ali ibn Abi Talib. They said to him, how comes in the time of Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, there were no wars, but when you become Khalifa, there are wars? He said, because in their time, they had to deal with people like me, whereas I have to deal with people like you. Yes? And that's why he finishes that sermon of Shaqshaqiyya. He said, that third one, he gave his power to the children of his grandfather. What did they do? Until the rope broke, their actions let them down and their gluttony forced them to prostrate. He then says after that, the people rushed towards me, subhanallah, 25 years after they left him and Fatima, they all came to him. He said they rushed to me from every direction. It was as if they were the manes of hyenas. They were ripping garments off my shoulders. They trampled on Hassan and Hussein on their way to me. And then they were saying to me like the herds of sheep and goats, we want you as our leader. But then a group of them broke away, and a group disobeyed, and a group claimed that they hadn't read the ayah of the Quran about mischief on the earth. We're coming to Jamal, Siffin and Nahrawan in the next few days, yes? About what happened when he became Khalifa, how straight away every old enemy of his came back to fight him once again. But therefore you find the Imam had made it clear that in those years, those were my most difficult years. Yes, I remained patient, although there was a prickling in my eyes, suffocation in my heart, yes? I saw my inheritance being plundered, yes? They shared its others strictly amongst themselves. If ever you doubt Ali ibn Abi Talib, what he was going through in those 25 years, that sermon 3 of Nahj al-Balagha, he called it Shaqshaqiyya, the roaring camel. He wanted to make clear, do you know how much I've kept inside? He'd tell Kumayl bin Ziyad, oh Kumayl, do you know what's inside me? There are things I want to tell man, but man cannot take them. So I dig my fist into the earth, because the earth can take them more than the human being, yes? How much Ali ibn Abi Talib had to take in with him until even the last days of his life, the man was still magnanimous on his approach. Never did he let any of that affect his manners. Never did he let it affect his dignity. He'd always say, ask me before you lose me. I know the secrets of the heavens more than the secrets of the earth. Wallah, no man in history was oppressed like Ali ibn Abi Talib, yes? And yet even you find, even after he's buried, there's still an honor and a magnanimity to him, yes? Because on a day like this is when Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib was buried, yes? Ya Allah, let us go near that grave in the holy land of Najaf. Let us sit by his grave. On a day like this, yes? And a day like this is when the Imam was buried. Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein left the house of Sayyida Zainab. They left the house of the other sisters. Imagine how difficult it is for a daughter to bid farewell to her father. Yes, it's extremely difficult. No daughter finds it easy to bid farewell to her father. Sayyida Zainab and Kulthum saw the janazah of their father leave them. Yes, Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein. Of course, Imam Ali had told them. He had said to them, listen, you will carry one side of the janazah. There will be unseen forces carrying the other side of the janazah. Yes, it's the angels who took the other side of the janazah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, because the angels were servants of Ali ibn Abi Talib, yes? They carried the janazah from Kufa. They took it all the way to where there to Najaf. Take your hearts next to the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen, I beg you. And those of you who haven't been to the grave of Imam Ali, tonight is your night, your hajat tonight, yes? Ask Allah to take you to the grave of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ya Allah, let everybody go near and sit by that holy grave, yes? Ya Allah, let our eyes see the grave of our Mawla, Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ya Allah, let us sit, let us smell the mercy of Ali. They took his janazah, they went all the way towards Najaf, and he had told them, there's a grave there. Nabi Nuh alayhi salam has dug that grave for me, yes? Because as you know, Imam Ali is buried next to Nabi Adam and Nabi Nuh. On one side is Nabi Adam, on the other is Nabi Nuh. They went, how difficult is it for a man to bury his father, yes? Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein put the body of their father in the grave. Then they left. On their way as they were leaving, there's a story that breaks my heart whenever I narrate it. Wallah, Ali ibn Abi Talib, there are certain things he done publicly we all know about. But there are certain things he done in private which are lessons for us. Imam al-Hassan says, we were coming back from having buried our father. We saw a man sitting on the ground in the area of Kufa. He was crying and crying. So we came to the man. We said, oh man, why do you cry? What's wrong? He said, I looked at them. Then I said to them, every night a man used to come and feed me in the middle of the night. For 3 nights he hasn't come to feed me. I wonder who that man was who every night used to come to me. Every night in Ramadan, he'd go out in the middle of the night. If there were poor people, he would come and give them food, yes? And the man looked towards Imam al-Hassan. He said to him, I'd like to thank that man, but for 3 nights I haven't heard anything from him. The tears began to flow from the eyes of Imam al-Hussein when he knew that his father would go out in the middle of the night. He looked towards the man. He said to him, oh man, that's my father Ali ibn Abi Talib who used to feed you. He said to him, but for 3 nights, where has he been? He said to him, he's been lying on his bed with the poison in his head, covering his body. I look at that night and I remember many a night, and I say to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, you used to come in the middle of the night, yes? If the poor were alone, you'd help them. If the orphans were alone, you'd help them. Why didn't you come when Zainab and Kulthum were alone in the darkness of Karbala with no one to look after them? But I know that he'd reply back to me, and what would he say? He'd say to me, no, I came, yes? Because Sayyidah Zainab says it was the night of the 11th of Muharram. She said, I tried to put Ruqayya and Sukaina to sleep, yes? I tried to put Rabab, but Rabab was running around Karbala. I looked at her and said, Rabab, what are you doing? She said, I'm looking for my baby. I want to feed my baby, yes? So she looked around. She tried to put everyone to sleep. She tried to calm everyone down. Then she herself, because of how much she was whipped in Karbala, she got tired, yes? So she herself fell on the ground. In her dream, what does she see? She sees a man coming towards her. The man is in black. She looks at the man. She says, oh man, Hussein and Abbas are not here anymore. Oh man, don't attack us. We have no one to defend us. Oh man, we have nothing to offer you. He said to her, Zainab, don't you recognize your father when he's in front of you now? Zainab, don't you recognize your father sitting in front of you? She said to him, Father, where were you when Shimr sat on the chest of my brother? Father, where were you when Abbas's arms were cut off? Father, where were you when the arrow hit the neck of the 6-month-old? Father, where were you when they whipped me and Kulthum? May Allah bless all of your tears. Ya Allah, let these tears speak for us on the day of judgment. Ya Allah, many of us are full of sins. These tears, let them speak for our love for Ahlul Bayt. Ya Allah, allow our sons and our daughters to memorize the sermon of Shaqshaqiyah. I say this why? Because one of our great ulama was going to Samarra. He was going to Samarra to visit Imam al-Hadi, Imam al-Askari. On his way, he went to Balad. You know where Muhammad, son of Imam al-Askari, is buried, next to Samar. He said, I fainted because of the heat. He said, a man woke me up and took me to my area. He said, I didn't know who this man was. And he just looked at me and he said, make sure you teach our Shia the following. Namaz al-Shab, Salat al-Layl. And make sure you teach our Shia as well to wear a ring on their right hand. And make sure as well that you teach our Shia to always recite Ziyarat Ashura. And make sure you teach our Shia to learn the khutbah of my grandmother Fatima at Fadak. The man said, when I heard the khutbah of my grandmother, who would say my grandmother? He said, and then he looked at me and he said, make sure they recite also and memorize the khutbah of Shaqshaqiyya of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. For that khutbah in Nahj al-Balagha shows what he felt in those years where he was away. Try and memorize that khutbah. Go to Nahj al-Balagha tonight, sermon number 3. Nahj al-Balagha. Have a look at that khutbah. That's Ali opening his heart to all. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise us with Muhammad and Al Muhammad. Ya Allah, raise us with the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman. Ya Allah, unite the Muslim Ummah on the love of Muhammad and Al Muhammad. Ya Allah, for all of our brothers around the world, especially our brothers in Iraq, bring peace and prosperity to them. Our brothers in Pakistan, our brothers in Afghanistan, our brothers in Bahrain, our brothers in the Hijaz. Ya Allah, our brothers all around the Islamic world, our brothers in Malaysia. We have our Shia brothers in Malaysia. It is a crime at the moment in Malaysia to be Shia according to the government. It's a crime in the legal system to be Shia in Malaysia. So we must remember our brothers in Malaysia who are being imprisoned every day because they are simply Shia. Ya Allah, for our brothers who are ill, we recite the ayah of the Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yujibu al-Mudtarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu al-Mudtarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu al-Mudtarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma dear brothers Hajj Saftan and Hajj Abdul Hussein, Ya Allah, bring them back to recovery. Allow all of our community to see them in peace and prosperity very soon. Ya Allah, everybody who has someone ill here, in the name of the one who was ill in Karbala, Imam Zain al-Abidin, cure them and bring peace towards their lives. Ya Allah, allow us to honor Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen this year and every year. And allow us to be next to his grave in the land of Najaf as soon as possible. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a Surah Al-Fatiha, but before it the loudest of your salawat. Allahumma salli